Hi, everybody. My name is Chelsea Franklin, and I'm going to be doing my health presentation over tobacco products. And my target audience is 15 to 21 years old. So, when dealing with tobacco products, the main question that anyone ever asks is what it is. So, tobacco is a plant that's originally indigenous to the Americas, which is now grown globally all across the world. It's a plant grown for its leaves, which are dried and fermented before being actually put into the tobacco product itself. So if you've ever seen like a cigar or a Black and Mild and you've seen the little dried up leaves falling out of it, that's the tobacco product. It contains nicotine, which is a commonly known ingredient which can lead to addiction, which is typically why a lot of people get hooked on it and it's very difficult to quit. Another highly addictive stimulant that it contains is alkaloid and harmala alkaloids. It has been used in the Americas all the way back to 1400 BC, and many Native American tribes grew and used tobacco, and it was typically either used socially or ceremonially, such as the Seal of Peace Treaty or a trade agreement. Now, that's kind of different from why people choose to smoke it today, but the socially part is very much similar to some of the reasons why people do use it today, but I'll get into that later on in my slide. So, tobacco, nonetheless, is a psychoactive, which also means mind-altering drug that speeds up activity in our central nervous system. So, if you ever hear anybody use the term head high, that's usually what they were referring to for the feeling of what they get whenever they do indulge in smoking cigarettes or any tobacco products of any kind. So the next question would be, how is it used? So tobacco can be used many of ways. However, the most common would obviously be to smoke it. So it can be smoked in tobacco products such as cigarettes, cigars, Black and Milds, Critex. Another common thing that people are using now are vapes. You can even use hookah, which is also very common, and a lot of people even use it in smoking it through pipes. You can also chew tobacco products, so that includes chewing tobacco, snuff, dip, and snus. And snuff can also actually be sniffed through your nose as well. So, of the 7,000 chemicals in cigarettes, yes, I said 7,000. Of the 7,000 chemicals in cigarettes, there are actually 93 known harmful and potentially harmful chemicals. And just to name a few, that would be nicotine. Obviously, that's the number one that everybody knows. Ammonia, carbon monoxide, cadmium, lead, and benzene. So just to touch bases on a couple of facts and a couple of statistics. So tobacco is the leading cause of preventable disease, disability, and death in the United States, which means that you can basically lengthen your life expectancy just by avoiding using tobacco products. I can actually also vouch for this. According to the FDA, there are more than 7,000 chemicals in cigarette smoke, and more than 70 of those chemicals are actually linked to cancer. Now, more than 16 million Americans are living with a disease that was caused by smoking cigarettes. And smoking can cause many things from cancer to heart disease, strokes, lung diseases, diabetes, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which includes emphysema and chronic bronchitis. And at this rate, according to the FDA, if the pattern of smoking does continue, more than 8 million people a year will die from health issues related to tobacco use by the year of 2030. Now, that's only 10 years from now, which may seem like it's far away, but it's closer than you think. So the main question that a lot of people usually ask is, why do people smoke? Not only why do you smoke, but why do people smoke when they're well aware of it being one of the number one leading preventable deaths in the U.S. and knowing that the side effects that can potentially come along with smoking cigarettes. So many people say that they smoke or use tobacco for many different reasons, such as stress relief, pleasure, or they use it in social situations, with whether it's you're smoking with a friend or you're smoking out at a party or you're casually smoking with people that also smoke. Or some people actually do it just to be cool. Now that's typically for my younger crowds. As I discussed at the beginning, I was targeting the audience of 15 to 21 years old. So typically when they start smoking, that usually is from trying to fit in, be cool. You're socially smoking with people that you also know that are also encouraging you to smoke, and you start it, but you don't realize how addictive that it can be. And what a lot of people don't understand is that when you smoke a cigarette, it only takes 6 to 10 seconds for the nicotine to reach your brain, making it very addictive and very difficult to quit once you start. Now, shortly after smoking your last cigarette, smokers start to feel a negative mood or return to the mood that they were in prior to when they smoked their first cigarette, and that's considered a withdrawal. Now, a lot of people, when they hear about withdrawals, they usually think of, the shaking, can't eat, vomiting, having diarrhea, like the extreme things of withdrawal. But what they don't, which are usually typically actually associated with harsher drugs, but that feeling of like feeling your mind calming down and you're returning to your regular mood, you're not realizing is also considered withdrawal. And you're actually using and depending on the nicotine to alter your natural state of mind. So, yeah, so that's considered withdrawal, and that's why normal smokers can smoke half or a whole pack of cigarettes within one day. And even if they don't smoke it all within one day, they can smoke it all up until the next day, and then they'll be on their next pack. And if you count how many cigarettes come in one box, imagine the amount. If you Google and look at the amount of nicotine that's included in what I discussed in the presentation in just one cigarette, imagine somebody smoking a whole pack. So I just want you guys to also keep that in mind. So as the body begins to adapt to the nicotine, smokers tend to increase the amount of tobacco they use. So this then raises the amount of nicotine in their blood, and the more tobacco is needed to get the same effect. So even though we're not discussing harsh drugs, I'm just going to take this time in my presentation to mention that this is also building a tolerance. Now, a tolerance is something that can be built with any drug, but specifically since we're talking about tobacco, this is what can lead to gateway drugs. This can be considered a gateway drug, meaning that because you build such a high tolerance for this drug and you don't feel like you can get the same high from it or the same mind altering effects, you move on and you go to another drug. So this is something that can also be a negative effect of smoking or using tobacco products at all. So back to my presentation, over time, a smoker reaches a certain nicotine level, and then they'll need to keep up the usage to keep that level of nicotine within a comfortable range for themselves. So this definitely explains why smoking has reached an all-time high. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this also answers why people still continue to smoke, even knowing the effects of what it has on the body, and knowing how it can shorten your lifespan, and knowing all the diseases that are also associated with the drug itself. So in conclusion, from all the research that I've done, my advice to smokers is just to quit cold turkey while they can. And my main reason is because this can lengthen your life expectancy. It can decrease your risk of disease, and you can live a much healthier lifestyle for yourself and for your loved ones and for your future grandchildren, and just overall live a better life. So that was my presentation, and I hope you guys enjoyed.